Naharolgi Khonjel Thoram tabiriba pumnamakpu taramna okchiri kurumjari. Ngasigi thoramda puduna lakjari. English Talk. Ngasigi thoramda thamjari. Role of AI in shaping the future of youth haibihidamasida. Pune de leiba Bharat Forge Limited ki Artificial Intelligence amadi Machine Learning Engineer oina thau pubiriba Bosco Chanam ga unaduna wariwatai saba. Unaduna wariwatai sanajaribi Chaplina Maisnam. Hauzik lobirasi Naharolgi Khonjel ki English Talk. Dear friend, welcome to our program, and it's a pleasure to be sitting with you here in our studio.
Thank you so much for having me.
First of all, I would like to introduce our program with a special quote which was said by Andrew Ng, who was a globally known AI researcher, educator, and entrepreneur. It goes like, artificial intelligence is the new electricity, and just like electricity transformed the past, AI is now shaping the future of today's youth. And as a youth yourself, I would like to know that what does artificial intelligence meant to you in today's world?
Yes, that's a very beautiful quote. So if we begin by what AI means to me, the concept of AI is not a very new thing. It's actually been around for a few decades now, from around the 1950s. Artificial intelligence refers to when computer software and systems think a bit like humans. So basically, we've had smaller and more simple forms of AI in the past, but right now it's become a much bigger boom, and there's a lot more new technology. So in the past, we would have simpler AI algorithms like the ones we use to check email spam, and then there were ones to predict stock market movement. And then even in 1997, there was a chess AI called Deep Blue that beat the world champion at chess. So these were earlier forms of AI, but now we have this new form of AI called generative AI, which can create things. It can create text, can create images, and can create videos. So right now, what it means to me right now in this current stage is a new world-changing technology, which we can use as a tool to make part of our everyday life, make us more efficient with work, and make society better as a whole.
So as you have mentioned that artificial intelligence boom
Yes.
to the young people, to the youths. So how do you think that AI is currently influencing young people? Do you think youth today are like well aware of AI and its impact?
Yeah, so this is a good question, because in fact, AI has always been with us, especially with the youth, for quite some time now. As we all know, nowadays, everyone in our generation, a bit younger, all of us are on the internet. We all use social media. So on social media, there's a lot of these AI algorithms that are at work currently and from before. So for example, we have Instagram and Snapchat, and they have filters for our face. So even that uses AI. Using facial maps of our face. And a very important AI that's also been used is all of these algorithms that are present inside of social media applications. So for example, on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, there are algorithms at work constantly to make sure that you see the things that you want to see. So for example, if one day you're watching a video about cars, then you might notice that soon all your videos are about cars. Or if you're speaking to someone about something, then you might notice there are ads that come up about the things you're talking.
Yeah.
So this is useful in some sense. If you're interested about something, it knows what you're interested about, and it keeps showing you more content in that sense. But there's also a bad side. So for example, in politics, people have a very strict set of ideas, and usually it's hard to change your mind about something. You know, it's hard to someone to have an open mind, and social media and these algorithms make it worse, because the kind of content that you get, it keeps reinforcing itself. So you think that I support this idea, and you get more videos that support that idea, and more, and so on. So it's hard to break out of that shell. This is what we call an echo chamber. So this is also another way it's influencing us, and we should be very careful about this.
As you have mentioned about social media, nowadays it's like common for a businessman. They are using the social media as a big platform to sell their things. And regarding uploading the photos and videos of their products, there are some options like AI edits.
that enhance videos and photos of their product. So could you please tell us something more about how can we use AI in local business?
Okay, so this is one of the best places where we can use AI. So with local businesses, the thing we struggle with most commonly is access to some sort of services and skills by some people that would otherwise help the business a lot. So for example, if your family owns a small store, let's say a chicken store or something, you want to stand out from the other generic stores around you. You'd want to have a brand, a logo, some sort of digital marketing. Before, it's hard to hire someone with the expertise here, especially in Manipur, because we have a limited talent pool and we also have limited resources. But now, because of AI, you can ask it to create an image of your brand in the way that you want it. And you can also create pamphlets, business cards, social media material. So this can help uplift local businesses. And among that, you can even make websites, because nowadays websites are quite easy to make even with code. So the AI can make it for you, and you don't need to know how to code. You can just describe it and it'll make it for you. So these are some ways that we can help local businesses using AI.
Yeah. So nowadays there are different types of AI-enabled robots, and one of them among them is humanoids,
Yes.
which perform human-centric functions and often take human-like forms. So in stores also, they greet customers and provide personalized information and even lead the way. In healthcare sector too, robots like this can assist precise surgical procedure. So from all of these things, there's a saying that AI-powered robots will replace humans in all jobs. Do you think that is it a misconception, or does AI pose a threat to the employment of the youth? And also, I'd like to know what skills should youth develop to succeed in an AI-driven world?
This is a very valid concern that people are having, because every other week you see new news about new capabilities of AI and other new things it can do. But there's a half-truth to this statement that AI will replace jobs. So if you look back in history, anytime there has been any sort of transformative technology, older jobs would be removed from the ecosystem and it'll be replaced by newer and even better jobs. So for example, back then we didn't have cars, we used to have horses. So if you were in the industry of, maintaining these horses and then making these carriages for people to go in, and all of a sudden cars came along, then obviously you would have to adapt to this new technology and take part. So in a similar way, AI is not going to take everyone's jobs. It'll take jobs which are kind of redundant and boring and simple to do. So those people who are in danger should be able to upskill and move into new jobs, which can add value to the economy. So this is my stance. And I think because of AI, there's lots of potential for people who have big ideas, who want to execute fast. So I think the positives outweigh the negatives by a huge margin. All we have to do is do a bit more exploring.
Right. In different way, the technology also use AI as a part of it. So tell us about the difference that you have seen in technological use, like how it is used in Manipur and how it is used in abroad.
Okay, so when it comes to these kinds of technologies, if you talk about it on the consumer scale, like how you and I interact with it, how the common person interacts with it, there's not that much of a difference, because our country has such an expansive grid of cheap and fast internet that all you need is just a smartphone or a laptop, and you can easily access all of these amazing AI models, applications like ChatGPT for free also. So on that aspect, there's not much of a gap between what's happening outside and what's happening here. It's just a matter of awareness. But on the more infrastructure related side, so like you mentioned, these smart robots inside hotels or like stores, or some cities might have smart cameras and traffic signals. These things can also be implemented here, but it requires a lot of effort from the government to support it and also companies to build it. So for example, you could have, like I mentioned, smart traffic lights, which would make all of traffic move like a lot better. You'll have a lot less pollution. And on top of that, since we're in a very natural disaster prone area, so if you have the appropriate sensors or like satellite data and you have AI to help you out, then you can catch all of these natural disasters before they happen, and then you can save a lot of lives. But these things are much more hard to come up with because you require a lot of planning by the government, support from the government, and also you need a lot of companies to want to do this. But this is a very good aspect where we can move forward in Manipur.
Artificial intelligence is currently one of the most high demand and lucrative fields in
Yeah.
technology, right? So how can we pursue AI, like artificial intelligence, as a career?
Okay, so especially in India, it's pretty straightforward. The most recommended path would be the one that most people take, which is engineering. So after 10th, you take science as a stream, and then after that, after 12th, you'd be giving JEE, which is the joint engineering entrance exam. And after that, you can get access to all these engineering colleges, and you can opt for BTech in computer science and engineering. And there are also a lot of new courses that are being offered by these institutes, like BTech in AI or BTech in data science, something similar like that. So once you're in the software industry, then you can switch to an AI role at any time, as long as you have the given skills. So this is the best way to join, but that doesn't mean that it's impossible to join from, let's say, another path. But this is the best way because, as we all know, there's a lot of competition in India. So this is the recommended way. But if you're a very talented young individual and you can make lots of cool projects and you can even make your own startup. And from there also, if you make your own company, then obviously you don't need a degree. You can make your own product, local product. You can make a business, make it bigger. And you can also enter in that way.
And so for going abroad, how can we do it?
Okay, so for going abroad, there are two very important factors here. Number one will be experience, of course. The more experienced you are, the more high chances you have of being called abroad. Because if you want to go abroad, that means that the company that's going to hire you abroad has to pick you over their own local candidates. So you have to prove to them. You have to show that I have this experience, I've done these things, and then as a result, you should hire me instead of your own local talent. And number two is you could study abroad. Of course, if you want to study abroad, you have to have a good degree from a college here. So something related, like I said, computer science or AI, and then you should have a good GPA. And then you can apply for the GRE exam, and then you can apply to all these countries in the US or the UK.
We all use AI as a part of our life in the past few years, but there rises an environmental concerns regarding artificial intelligence. So can you explain about these things?
So when we want to run all of these AI models on such a large scale, like huge companies are running on their servers, the main concern with these operations is that since it's such a large system, it requires lots of cooling and it requires lots of energy. So usually when we make energy, we use water in some sense because we need steam to generate, to turn turbines.
Exactly.
And on the second part, we also need to have water to cool these systems because if you have a computer, you can't run it like at a very high temperature. You have to cool it, right?
Yeah.
So the first problem can be addressed by having renewable resources like solar energy or wind energy. But the second one is the main issue that's causing lots of people to be worried, where you need water constantly to cycle in and cool it down. So because of this, there are lots of concerns, especially in the US, where these big AI data centers are popping up and they're taking in supply, like local supply of water. And people are worried that this will lead to shortages for the locals over there. And it'll also lead to increased prices for electricity and water. So this is a very pressing concern right now. But there are technologies in development to help address this. So for example, inside the data center, if you keep recycling the water that's being used there, then you don't have to use any extra ones from outside, right? And then on top of that, like I mentioned, if you use renewable energy resources, then you wouldn't be using water in the first place. These are valid concerns, and we should voice our support or like our disagreement if these things are affecting our communities. And all these companies and the government is paying attention. So hopefully they'll be moving forward with something more sustainable.
Coming to geopolitical aspects, what are the geopolitical aspects of data centers and artificial intelligence?
Yes, so this is actually a very interesting topic right now because AI and compute is one of the most ferocious battlefields on the planet right now between global superpowers, that being the US and China. So the US right now is leading the race in terms of pure power. It has the best models, AI models and technology in the world. And it also has the highest number of data centers in the world. It's in the few thousands. But China is very close behind the US. So what China is actually doing is it's able to emulate the performance of these huge AI models at a much cheaper price. And China is extremely, extremely good at making infrastructure. So people are worried that it'll catch up in making data centers and take over compute as compared to the US. So because of this, there's a lot of politics in play. For example, the US has limited the exports of these processing units, graphics processing units or GPUs, to China to try and stop them from developing at such a fast speed. So you can see there's some power play happening between these countries. And our country, India, is not directly involved right now because we don't have the talent right now, frankly, to match the US and China. And actually, there's a funny thing that all of these AI researchers in the US, they're all Chinese as well. So in some way, it's the Chinese in China versus the Chinese in the US. So there's a lot of talent wars happening. And it's such a big deal that Meta was paying hundreds of millions of dollars for a single person to join their company. So this talent is extremely important. But on the good side of things, India recently had their own new AI company. It's called Sarvam AI. And it's also doing really well. And it's very competitive in some aspects, especially with those regarding local Indian languages.
In the field of education, how is artificial intelligence changing the way of students learn and study?
Yeah, in this particular department, it's been a huge, huge change. So if you look at it historically, if you were in some local area not so developed and you wanted to learn something for some exam or something like that, then you'd have to go to the library, look for a book, and then you have to find the book. Sometimes this was not possible. You couldn't find it. So there was an obvious lack of, privilege where people who had access to this would do better. Then after that came the internet. But even with the internet, if you had personal questions, you couldn't be able to ask this to someone if they were not available. But now because of AI, you have a personalized tutor on your phone, on your laptop, and you can ask any question you want. So the possibilities of this are like completely endless. So now I think it's a great equalizer in education, where now it doesn't matter, how poor or rich you're born in. As long as you have internet, you'll have access to amazing education. And this is like the best thing I think that's come out of AI. Now, on a different note, there also have been some concerns that have come up recently, especially regarding assignments that given by college or school. Now, what used to happen is when you're given, let's say, an assignment to write an essay, you sit down and you critically think for a few hours and you write. But now what people are doing is they upload the entire assignment online to ChatGPT. And then they just copy it. And then they expend no mental effort. And because of this, people are going to fall behind, obviously. Because the struggle of thinking and the struggle of trying to put your ideas on paper and pen is what makes you develop. But if you skip this entire step and get the answer finally, then obviously you're going to be behind the people who actually did. So this is a concern, but I still think that the good parts of this outweigh the bad parts by a huge margin. We just have to ensure that we take our own responsibility as students to make sure that we don't be lazy, basically, that we use our tools appropriately to make ourselves better.
Yeah, as you have mentioned about chatbots and ChatGPT, even some of the students also use Google Lenses. They have to take the pictures of the questions or something like which they want to know. These kinds of things are mostly used by the students in present. So do you think AI tools are helpful or harmful for the students?
There's two sides to this coin. As we discussed before, it's useful in the sense that it gives you the autonomy and it gives you the privilege to learn about anything at any time. But at the same time, it can be used for malicious intent. So as we've already covered that it can be used for completing assignments without effort. It can also be used for cheating in exams as well. So as with any new technology, right now it's completely free for all. So you can use it however you want. There are good things and bad things. I think that over time we'll have more control over some of the bad ways it can be used. So maybe like when you give exams, there will be tools better to detect if a student is using AI or not, or there'll be new things given out by the schools that prevent the use of AI. Maybe they change the way that assignments are given. So it's kind of hard to use AI for it, but it's only been a few years, and I guess in the foreseeable future, there will be new ways to make sure that we completely optimize the good parts of this. And then we can forget about the bad parts.
As we have known how the consumers took the advantage of artificial intelligence, I want to ask you that how AI is used in industries like corporate industries.
In corporate industries, it's a bit similar in some ways and a bit different than how we use it day to day. Mostly in corporate environments, we've seen a lot of agentic AI developments. So basically, if your company is some huge old company, and there's lots of internal processes, documentation and stuff. What companies have started doing is they've started creating their own AI chatbots with their own data. So basically, you can ask any question and it tells you what to do. So for example, if you want to get some sort of document processed, how can I do this document processing? And then also, some companies have started doing this on the customer side. So you guys might have seen on Amazon, they've started adding chatbots. So you can ask, you can go to a
Anything.
particular product and you can ask, are the reviews good? Do people like this? Do people return it? So I guess the number one use case in the industry right now is chatbots. It could be inside the company or it could be to customers outside the company. This is mostly for text-based AI. If you look at vision-based AI or like AI that can see things, it's used a lot, let's say, in security footage. So if you're a security company and you're making these products for cameras, nowadays, even the cameras you can buy for like 2,000, 3,000 rupees, they can detect people and they can detect when, how fast something is moving or if something is happening. So all of these also have AI in them. Even beyond that, we can use AI to have a look at things and see if things are missing or if things are present. So this is very useful when you're making things. If you're making boards, computer boards, you can take a picture and you can check if some components are missing or not. So it's some sort of check in the manufacturing process for quality insurance. So even that's there. So there's a very wide variety of applications in the industry. And compared to the consumers is a bit simple. It's mostly with these apps like ChatGPT and all. But in the industry, there's very specific problems and they're using AI to solve them.
Do you think that AI will make the life easier or complicated for young people? And how do you imagine about the future of the next 10 to 20 years with artificial intelligence?
It's a very interesting question because it depends a lot on how people use it and how the AI technology evolves over time. So right now, we've seen that people are using it a lot to become more lazy. So I think that it will make things easier for a lot of us, but that could also be a bad thing, where we don't have the same level of drive to do something or the capacity to wait for things to happen. And I think it'll be hard to say now exactly what will happen in the future. But I do believe that in 10, 20 years' time, there can be a lot more agency. So if you want to get something done, you want to translate your idea into something, to business, a product, something like that, it will be much, much easier. I saw this graph recently that the number of employees at these big companies are going down and the number of companies in total are going up. So what's happening is these small companies are able to survive on their own, to create products, because now you don't need that many people to make something work. So I think in that sense, in the future, any sort of problem that pops up, it can be solved very quickly. You don't have to wait for someone else to solve it. If you see a problem, then you can solve it yourself. So I think that this new culture of taking initiative and solving problems will be implemented in the youth. And we will have a very, very bright future, I feel.
Coming to the navigation of artificial intelligence, how can the youths navigate AI? Could you please tell us both in negative and positive aspects?
I think the best way to navigate something new like this is to educate yourself about how to use it and how we can do things, what things we should do, some things we can't do. Now, there's a very, very important thing that we've not covered yet, and that's how people can use AI to deceive others. So we might have seen on WhatsApp that nowadays there's a lot of fake news, fake images, videos. It's very dangerous because as a platform, it's more dangerous on WhatsApp because if you're on YouTube or Facebook, you can see comments. And in the comments, people can say, this is fake. You shouldn't do this. But on WhatsApp, if someone forwards it, there's no attached comments to tell you that this is fake or whatever. And nowadays, people can create, images of fake news or like some videos of some fake event happening. And another very scary thing is if someone gets a hold of your voice, then they can clone your voice and they can call your parents and they can pretend like you need money, you need help. And so you have to be very, very careful with your digital presence and what kind of content you post about yourself online. It should be private in most cases. You shouldn't expose yourself to the internet. Nowadays with technology, with the new AI models that can clone your voice, it takes maybe 5 to 10 seconds, just 5 to 10 seconds, and they can clone your entire voice. and make you say anything. So a good way to stop this, especially for this voice part, is you should have a safe word with your friends and family. For example, if in the future you call your family and you ask them for something urgently, like money or something, you can use a safe word to make sure they know it's actually you and not someone pretending to be you. To be fair, we don't speak in English to our parents, we speak in Manipuri. So it's a bit more difficult in that sense for them to fake it. But in the future, it might happen. So we should all take precautions that, especially with the elders, because they don't know much about this stuff. You should teach them that you should not believe everything you read online. You should always check. And that if some sort of call happens and they sound like you, or there's a video that looks like you should always confirm by having some sort of safety word, or you can call them and check. And if we look at some other ways to navigate AI and this new environment that we have, a very common concern is that AI can also give false information. We should be vigilant and know we should know when to use fact checking. So basically, if you ask a question to an AI, it could give you some sort of wrong information. So you should know to ask, how did you get this information? How did you get this source? So you shouldn't blindly trust this. You should still have that level of critical thinking to say, oh wait, the answer that it just told me, it doesn't sound right, so I should check online. And also nowadays, there's a lot of tools that we can use to check if photos and videos are real. So this is a developing technology, and the specific use that it has is you can upload your clips and photos and check if it's been, somehow altered with AI, or if someone is trying to cause disinformation. So we should all keep an eye on these tools because they'll help us navigate this new landscape that we have.
It's glad to know these things, and I think it will be more helpful to the listeners also. So, in one sentence, how would you describe the role of artificial intelligence in shaping the future of youth?
Okay, in a singular sentence, I would say people will not be replaced by AI, but the people that can use AI will replace the ones that cannot.
Very nice. As we have come to the end of this program, I would like to ask you one last question. What advice would you give to the youth preparing for an AI-driven future?
So a general piece of advice I would give to the youth is now we have all of the tools to be able to do anything we can think of, anything we can dream of. So we should all use these tools appropriately, and we should take initiative. So now if you have an idea to help yourself, to help your family, your community, you can put it to the test. You can make a project. You can build these sorts of things that can, give value to your community, to yourself. So you shouldn't be afraid. You should use all of this free stuff that they're giving you. All these companies are basically giving away this for free. So don't let it go to waste. Take initiative, make things, explore things.
Thank you so much for sparing your precious time for our program.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.